In a small, quiet town nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, there stood a forgotten mansion. Its crumbling walls were shrouded in mystery, and its long abandoned rooms were filled with dust and silence. But there was one thing about this mansion that no one could forget: a painting, hung prominently in the main hall. The painting was unlike any other. It depicted a woman, her face serene, her eyes distant, but there was something unsettling about her gaze. People in the town whispered about it, claiming that the woman in the painting had once been a resident of the mansion, a tragic figure whose story remained a secret. The townsfolk referred to it as the Silent Lady, and no one dared to touch it, fearing the curse it might carry. The story began many years ago, in the early 1800s, when the mansion was home to a wealthy and respected family, the Wentworths. The family consisted of Lord Henry Wentworth, a dignified but stern man, his beautiful wife, Eleanor, and their only daughter, Charlotte. The family lived in luxury, but their lives were overshadowed by a tragic event: the sudden death of Lord Wentworth. With her father gone, Charlotte grew increasingly lonely. Her mother, overcome by grief, withdrew into a deep depression, leaving Charlotte to wander the mansion's sprawling halls alone. It was during these solitary walks that she encountered the painter, a mysterious stranger who had come to the town seeking work. The man, known only as Alastair, was an artist of great talent, and when Charlotte asked him to paint her portrait, he agreed without hesitation. Little did she know that this decision would change her life forever. As Alastair painted, the two grew close, and Charlotte found herself drawn to him in ways she couldn't explain. She confided in him about her loneliness, her sadness, and her growing fears. But Alastair was no ordinary artist. His eyes held secrets, and as he painted, he began to alter not only Charlotte's image but something deeper within her. The portrait was completed, but when Charlotte stood before it, she was horrified. The woman in the painting was no longer the vibrant young girl she had once been. Her face was pale, her expression hollow, her eyes filled with an eerie sadness that seemed to follow anyone who looked at it. Charlotte was never seen again. Some say she disappeared that night, vanishing without a trace. Others claim she wandered the halls of the mansion, lost to madness, always searching for something, perhaps herself, perhaps a way to escape the curse that had been placed upon her. Years passed, and the mansion was abandoned, but the painting remained, left untouched in the grand hall. Those who dared to enter the mansion reported strange occurrences. The sound of footsteps echoing through empty rooms, whispers in the dark, and, of course, the chilling sensation of being watched by the eyes in the painting. One day, a historian named Evelyn Dorian, fascinated by the rumors, ventured into the mansion, determined to uncover the truth behind the painting. She had studied the Wentworths for years and was convinced that there was more to the story than the townsfolk knew. Evelyn spent days in the mansion, poring over old letters, diaries, and records. She learned that after Charlotte's disappearance, Lord Wentworth had become obsessed with finding his daughter, but no one ever saw her again. Eleanor, heartbroken, lived out the rest of her days in mourning, dying young from a broken heart. The mansion, once full of life, was abandoned soon after. but Evelyn discovered a strange detail in the records. Alistair, the painter, had mysteriously disappeared on the same night as Charlotte. No one knew where he went, or what had happened to him. It was as if he, too, had vanished into thin air, leaving only the haunting portrait behind. The more Evelyn delved into the mystery, the more unsettling the connection became. She began to notice strange occurrences in the mansion, too. The temperature would drop near the painting, and sometimes, in the quiet of the night, she could hear soft whispering voices. The painting seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as though it was alive. One evening, as she stood before the painting, Evelyn felt a sudden chill run down her spine. The eyes of the woman in the portrait seemed to move, following her every step. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched the canvas. In that instant, everything went black. When Evelyn awoke, she found herself standing in the mansion's grand hall, but something was different. The walls were no longer crumbling, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers. She turned around to find herself face to face with Charlotte Wentworth, or what appeared to be her. The woman in front of her smiled, but her eyes were still filled with the same eerie sadness from the painting. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered softly. "Now you're part of the story, too." Evelyn tried to speak, but her words faltered as the world around her began to fade. The last thing she saw was the painting of Charlotte, her eyes now looking directly into Evelyn's, as if she had known this moment would come all along. The mystery of the painting was never solved. The mansion remains abandoned, and the painting still hangs in its hall, a silent witness to the tragic events that unfolded within those walls. Some say that anyone who gazes too long at the painting will become part of its dark story, their souls trapped within its frame for eternity. The deep haunting mystery behind the painting endures, its secrets hidden in the shadows, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover them if they dare.